Since he opened Mesa Grill in 1991, Bobby Flay has been a fixture on the culinary scene. The Wonderkind chef soon achieved another kind of stardom on the Food Network, where he's headlined shows including Throwdown with Bobby Flay and Beat Bobby Flay, as well as becoming the winningest competitor on Iron Chef. He's opened restaurants all over the country and has written more than a dozen cookbooks. Now he's publishing a magnum opus, Chapter 1, which contains essays about his career and 100 recipes that have defined it. We'll be discussing it all and how much we miss Bobby's Burger Palace in this Newsday Live conversation. Please welcome Bobby Flay.
What's going on, everybody? Don't rush the stage.
Hello. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for being here.
Pleasure.
And we're talking about this really spectacular book.
Thank you.
Bobby, this reads to me like sort of a career summation, but you called it Chapter 1.
Yeah.
Why did you do that, and is there Chapter 2 that we should be looking forward to?
Chapter 1, I'm just getting started.
Okay.
I mean, that's really the sentiment. I mean, obviously, it's not exactly true. I've been doing this for a long time, but I still feel like I have plenty to learn, plenty to discover, and plenty to give. Okay. And this book is certainly my most important book, and this is my 18th book. And I don't say that after every book, I promise you. It's not just, today's our publishing day, and I don't say it every publishing day. Like, this is the most important book I've ever done, because I've done a lot of different kinds of books, but this one is the book that really has my heart and my soul into it. I mean, all the essays that I wrote are, incredibly meaningful. It's not a memoir. I mean, I was on the Today Show this morning. No, it's not a memoir.
Memoir-ish?
No, it's not a memoir.
Okay.
And I really want to be clear about that, just because, I've been in the restaurant business for close to 40 years. More than 40 years, I'm sorry. And I have plenty of stories that are not in this book, but the essays are really about the food. I write about the food based on where I cooked them, why I created them, what inspired me about them, and it just got me writing. And so it's not quite a memoir.
I don't associate you so much with this anymore, but when I first knew about you, and that's when you were at Miracle Grill, you were really associated with Southwestern flavors.
Sure.
And I began to, and that always seemed the most natural thing in the world, big, bold flavors, Bobby Flay, but then I got to thinking, how did a kid from New York gravitate towards, how were you even exposed to them? How did that happen?
It happened because I was working for a guy named Jonathan Waxman, who brought the first California cuisine restaurant to the East Coast called Jams. This is 1983 or 4, something like that. And it was the first time that I was introduced to those kinds of ingredients: fresh and dried chili peppers, beans of every iteration, corn of every iteration. We weren't really exposed to that kind of stuff on the East Coast whatsoever. And I fell in love with the ingredients. I fell in love with the flavors, the colors, the textures, and I sort of just honed in on them. And then I decided to go off and discover them more fully in the place that they really live, which is the Southwest of the United States.
Yeah. The one essay in this book that's not so food related is you begin the book talking about dropping out of high school.
Yeah.
And I wondered why you decided to begin the book there.
It is food related. I didn't like the lunches at school.
Okay.
So I was like, out of here. Why did I start it that way?
Yeah, you speak at length about it.
It really is my story in terms of how I got to the kitchen. I was talking about this today on the Today Show, and it was, when I was going to school, grammar school, high school, we weren't testing kids for learning disabilities, et cetera, but I certainly had and probably still have them. And so I really couldn't learn in a traditional manner, so to speak. I wasn't going to open an English textbook and flourish. It was not happening. I did no homework. I did no work. I really didn't. I was hanging out with my friends. I had no interest at all. And then I got thrown out of school a couple of times, for not doing any work. And then I finally quit during my sophomore year. And the only reason why I went that long, which was because I was a pretty good athlete in school. So the coaches were like, keep him here, But I finally just gave up on it, and then I went to work.
Did you find that, you describe a school career as not being a hard worker, but as soon as you got into the kitchen, you must have realized that you have an enormous capacity for hard work.
Work ethic, I'm lucky to have an amazing work ethic. It drives me. But instead of using this in terms of, reading and absorbing and then making it part of my education, I needed to use these. I didn't know that. I did not know that.
That's what cooking taught you.
I needed vocational education,
right?
Which we don't have enough of in this country.
100%.
I'm not going to get on my soapbox about it. It's the truth.
I agree.
We can't all learn the same way.
Right.
And I learn through life. Whatever's in front of me, I'll learn something tonight because I'm really paying attention to what my surroundings are. And I think part of it is growing up as a New Yorker. Like you always know what your surroundings are.
Right.
It's sort of part of how you brought up. And I take those things that I learn and see and experience, and I make them part of my life's work.
Most of the recipes in this book are fairly complicated.
They are.
To our home chefs in the
Good
audience.
luck, everybody.
Yeah.
Well, I will tell you this. I mean, that's a really good point. And I'm not going to apologize for it because
I was giving you a way out. I was going to ask you, are there any recipes or parts of recipes that you would?
No. That's not true. There's definitely some easy recipes. We were just talking about. I have to do an appearance on The View, and we were talking about. I know that audience very well, and the simpler the better. When you're on television, when you're trying to teach people how to do things, like if I go on the Today Show and I do a dish with quail, no one cares. I mean, no one. If I do spaghetti and meatballs, it breaks the website, right? Because it's familiar. You feel like you can reach out and taste it, and you know what it tastes like, and you want to go off and make it. This book is a little more difficult than my previous books, and I have plenty of books that are really geared to the home cook.
Most of them.
Most of them are because, my first book was hard.
That was Bold
American Food.
Bold American Food.
It was my first book in 1994, and it was a lot of Southwestern flavors. Like nobody had heard of the word Chipotle, right? Now we go and we order bowls and burritos from Chipotle. So nobody had ever heard the word before. But my book was filled with those kinds of things. So they're like, we don't even know where to get these ingredients, right? This book is a return to it's a coffee table book. Let's put it that way. I hope that you feel like it's a collector's item. It's 100 of my most important recipes. And I've updated them for today's cooking if they've sort of, from a few decades ago, because some of them are. And then, it's my first coffee table book. It's 100 recipes. Every single recipe has its own full color photo. And that's an unusual thing. Publishers don't like doing these books because they're more expensive than most classic cookbooks.
Sure.
And people are intimidated by using them. But you guys are obviously a very sophisticated cooking crowd.
This is much more sophisticated than the View audience.
Exactly. But there's definitely much easier dishes in here. All the steaks, in my opinion, are easy to do. I made 3 dishes on the Today Show this morning. I was on there for 3.5 hours. It was crazy. I didn't even know they had that many hours. It was nuts. And the first dish I did was a paella, which is like, again, that could be a long, drawn-out dish, but if from a family-style kind of thing, it's one of the great dishes of the world. Listen, it's a rice dish, and you can put whatever you want on top of it. It's really I think it's actually fairly simple. And then the next dish was a pork chop with like an osso buco kind of sauce that had some fresh herbs with olive oil, not very difficult at all. And I made polenta on the side. And then here's where the chefy stuff comes in. So I made a sauce called romesco, which is it's like, let's put it this way, it's a Spanish version of a red pesto. So it's got chilies and tomatoes and almonds and garlic and bread, and it's like a paste. And I swirl it into the polenta so it looks very pretty and it has tons of flavor. You don't have to do that. So you can serve the pork chop with the polenta, you're fine. And then the last dish was it's something called piri piri chicken, which is a dish that the Portuguese settlers who wound up in Africa brought to Africa, Mozambique actually, and they brought these chilies and they created this kind of spicy, kind of big flavored, either grilled or roasted chicken. That's all it is. So once you get past the wording, all you're basically doing is roasting a chicken with lots of flavor. Okay, so they can appear. I have to make these appear to be complicated because the book is $60, but at the same time, I'm not an overcomplicated cook in general. I like things that are yummy. I like things that are to the point. They have great textures, great flavors, and they satisfy that craving. To me, that's the most important thing.
I was surprised at how many Iron Chef recipes there were in the book, and I always think of those as sort of being created on the fly.
Yeah, you're not making those.
But no, but I mean, I was surprised to see them, written down.
Yeah.
How do those recipes, to give us the inside scoop, how do those, you see crayfish and then all of a sudden how do you make up those recipes and what
during the Iron Chef competition? You mean? Well, that show's no longer.
I know.
I think I did about 65 episodes.
You are the winningest chef.
Well, but I also did the most episodes.
Oh,
so.
Okay. So your percentage isn't
exactly.
that impressive.
I just want to be transparent about the whole thing. And Michael Simon, my good friend, will tell you he has a better percentage than me. But he only did a handful of we got to give Michael credit. So, on the cover there, that oyster dish on the bottom left, I guess you would call it, there's no oysters in the dish. It's actually a dish called shellfish impersonating oysters. Because it's oyster shells, and then there's 3 different dishes. There's there's a shrimp, there's a scallop, and I think there's I can't remember what it is, maybe a clam or, what is it? Anyway, and so each one has a different sauce, so it looks like they're oysters, but they're not. That's like an Iron Chef dish. It's a dish that has it's thought-provoking, but it has to be delicious too.
But it seems like when you're watching Iron Chef that you guys are just coming up with these recipes on the fly.
I'm sorry, you asked me the question. So what we wouldn't, on Iron Chef in particular, every show is different, but in Iron Chef in particular, they would tell us it was going to be one of 3 proteins, or one of 3 ingredients.
Okay.
Because we had to make 25 dishes in 60 minutes. You have to make 5 dishes times 5 of each one, and otherwise it would be impossible. So you had to go in with at least sort of some idea, but you didn't know what it was going to be until you saw it.
I think your most successful shows on the Food Network have been competition shows. I mean, you Throw Down, Beat Bobby Flay, Iron Chef. Do you, what is it about you and cooking and competing that sort of comes together?
Well, as I touched on a little bit when we first started talking, I was an athlete in school. And this is my athleticism now.
Okay.
And, there's a clock, there's a competitor or 2 or 3. There's challenges, and it's physical. I'm a line cook at heart. I love cooking in my restaurant. When I'm in my restaurants, I'm in my whites, and I am cooking. And so it's a natural progression for me. I created Beat Bobby Flay because I wanted to do 2 things. I wanted to cook, and I wanted to hang out with my friends. Okay. And I created the show based on my relationship with Michael Simon, actually. Because Michael and I will sit around like 2 guys watching sports and basically give each other a hard time for 6 hours. Okay? So I was like, that's a show. And so Beat Bobby Flay, I invite 2 friends of mine on, and they try to get me beat. That's literally how it came up. I came up with it. And I've done over 600 episodes of that show. It's been on for 11 years now. Thank you. It's so fun. It's really fun.
How did you wind up on TV? What year did you wind up on TV?
Well, I know when I did, well, the very first time I was ever on TV, my mother, Dorothy Flay, my greatest cheerleader of my life, she's gone now, but she, I don't know where she was, but she came home, she came home, I don't know how old I was probably 23. I was cooking at Miracle Grill, and she called me and she said, I met Regis Philbin. I was like, what? What do you mean you met Regis Philbin? Yeah, I was in the Bahamas, and they were doing a show down there. I was with my girlfriends, and I met him. You want to be on his show? I was like, Regis and Kathy Lee? She's like, yeah. I was like, okay. And so I made Southwestern potato salad. It was the first time I was on television. Man, was I awful. I mean, I was literally like staring into the camera like, what happens now? I mean, you know, there's no substitute for experience when it comes to this kind of stuff. And that was the first time I was on television for real. But then, you know, the Food Network showed up, and I was the chef of Mesa Grill. Mesa Grill was the hottest restaurant in the country. The Food Network was a startup cable network. They had no money. It started in New York City, in some old beat-up studio on the west side of New York. And you know, if you couldn't get there by subway, they weren't having you on as a guest. And I was like, I remember when they announced it, it was like, coming soon, a network dedicated to 24 hours of food. I was like, that's gonna last a week. I was obviously wrong. But you know, it was one of those things where it just kind of, it flourished. And then I did a couple of guest spots, and then I pitched a show called Grillin' and Chillin'. I was like, how about an outdoor grilling show? They're like, well, okay. And so I'm like, I'm from New York. We don't really grill in New York unless you're on your terrace illegally. But I know this guy who is from the South, but he lives in Philadelphia. His name is Jack McDavid. He'll be the country guy, I'll be the city guy, and we'll kind of duke it out.
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was the worst show on TV.
It was sweet.
Sweet. That's very nice of you. It was a train wreck. We had no idea what we were doing. It was so bad. But we shot 42 shows in 6 days. 7 a day. Boom. No live to tape. Which means for like many years before when Food Network started, they didn't have money for editing. So we literally had to shoot it from live to tape. So it would be like a 22 minutes show, and there'd be 4 segments. And let's say they were 6 minutes each or whatever it was. And like the field producer would have a cue card and would count me, like put up a 30 sign, and then 15, and then 10, and then 5, and then like they'd roll out, and you'd have to hit it, and I'd be like, okay. And like they put up like bullet points, like what was in the next segment. So let's say it was like grilling red snapper. And I mean, we were like 2 dopey guys. We had no idea what we were doing. And so finally, you know, as I was going out, I'd be like, all right, and okay, so when we come back, we're gonna be grilling red snapper. So stay right here. You're watching Grillin' and Chillin'. Peace. I mean, we thought we were so cool. We were idiots, you know. But you know, that show kind of started it all. And I actually remember exactly when that show was, because my daughter, who's now 28 years old, was 10 days old.
Okay.
So it was 28 years ago and change.
And you became you started off being, you know, known for being a chef. You were just a chef, and then you sort of morphed into being a TV star.
Yeah.
I mean, no?
I don't feel that way. I mean, honestly, I don't comment it that way. I was saying this to somebody the other day. I still feel like my TV job is like my weekend job, because I really am a cook at heart, and I always will be. It's the most important thing to me. The Food Network knows this. I care less about the Food Network than I care about my restaurants by far. Like, when I go to my restaurants, I put my apron on, it's my shield from the world, and I am the happiest and most comfortable I can be.
So, but they're mostly in Las Vegas.
Well, now.
Yeah, but what happened to we miss you in New York?
Well, the restaurant business changed.
Yeah,
man.
so we really miss Bobby's Burger Palace. And
well,
can I tell you, you had the good burgers, you had the good fries, and you had the good shakes. and no other restaurant does all three
I so
well.
appreciate that. And I totally agree with that. A lot of times the burger can be good and maybe one of the other two things are not.
Yeah, like
as
at
good.
Shake Shack, the fries are frozen. The malteds are good.
I'm not saying a word.
And then
Nope.
at Five Guys, the fries are good.
You're the restaurant critic, so you can say all
but
this.
the milkshakes aren't good.
All
You
right.
had all three.
Thank you so much. Well, we got pounded by the pandemic, like so many other people. And the restaurant business in New York, like the independent restaurant business in New York City has changed a tremendous amount. It's a broken business. It doesn't pencil out anymore.
How so?
Everything costs too much. You know, the restaurant business in general has always been a very low margin business. And then when the labor rises, the occupation, the rent rises, and the cost of goods rise, there's nothing left. You're seeing restaurants close all over the place. I predicted this 10 years ago.
My job is writing restaurant obituaries.
I know. It's honestly, it's the saddest thing, like that's I've watched in my career.
Why does it work in Las Vegas?
It's a different business model. The license deals, and also like Caesar's Palace, who I'm partners with, who I've been great partners with for over 20 years. Don't forget, they have entertainment, they have gambling, they have hotel rooms, and my restaurants are an amazing amenity for them. Not that they don't want to make money in the restaurants, but it's a very, very different business model.
Right, so it's not all down to the restaurant to make the money. It's
Right.
there to make the whole property more attractive.
Right.
Yeah. What do you like to eat when you're sort of on your own dime, on your own time?
Well,
Like in New York, where do you like to eat?
I go to the same restaurants a lot in New York City. I go to Minetta Tavern a lot. It's a very cool New York space. I go to Pastis. I go to Via Carota. I like sushi, so I eat in some sushi places. There's too many omakase places now, though. It's crazy. Everything's omakase. You can't just go eat like good sushi somewhere for like less than $700 a person. It's crazy.
You can on Long Island.
But I know. But see, this is the thing in New York, right? And when you go to restaurants in New York now, right, you're astounded by the prices. It doesn't, like, any restaurant is like so crazy expensive. But what I will say to you is, you're right. But also, they have to get it, because if they don't, they're closing. And even though they're charging very high prices now for everything in every restaurant, they're still having a hard time making it.
When readers complain to me, I tell them exactly the same thing. I mean, no one's getting rich operating a restaurant in New York. People who own, fast food franchises, they can get rich.
It's hard for them too.
Yeah, it's hard for everybody.
Yeah. It's a very hard business.
So what's next for you?
Well, the book just came out today.
The book. Okay.
Let's let this thing breathe.
Okay.
Man.
I mean, you called it chapter 1. I feel like I have to ask about.
I will tell you
chapter 2.
that. Like, I live in Tribeca. I'm a native New Yorker, and we talked about the restaurants. I've been thinking about this a lot lately. Of course, I always had 2 or 3 restaurants in New York for 30 years, and this is the first time I haven't had a restaurant in New York in my adult life. It's very disconcerting for me, because I wake up and I walk out my front door and I'm like, where am I supposed to go? I don't know where to go. So it was, my first stop, my second stop, my third stop, my fourth stop were always my restaurants for my everyday.
I remember interviewing you once, and you told me that you wanted all of your restaurants within walking distance. That's when you had Mesa Grill, you had Bolo.
Oh my God, yes.
And you had something else, and you talked about getting
Bar
up.
Americaine.
Yeah, and walking to all of them.
Yes, I did a lot of that. Well, Mesa Grill was, and Bolo was second.
Yeah, I miss Bolo till this day.
There's some Bolo dishes in here.
Yeah,
absolutely. Thank you.
well, you're welcome.
Did you go to Gato?
Yes, I did. And also Bar Americaine, right? But that was, and then I started being more on Long Island.
Yeah.
Yeah. So TV, you're set. You got anything new?
I'm working on some new shows. I'm continuing with the Food Network. It really has become my home in so many ways, and You know, my job there is evolves constantly. I have my own production company, so I produce all my own shows, and I really try to mentor a lot of the sort of up and coming talent that I think have credibility. I mean, to me, first things first, you have to be a great cook.
Yeah.
Period. Like, if I'm not interested in teaching somebody who's good on camera to cook on TV. I have zero interest in that. Jada and De Laurentiis and I used to fight about this all the time, because we used to host this show called The Next Food Network Star for like 15 seasons. And Jada was like, to me, the whole thing is if you can be a star in front of the camera, I can teach you how to cook on TV. And I was like, I don't care about that. Yeah. Like, I want a cook who I can mold and be an authentic person in front of the camera. Who cares if you mess up sometimes? I want your authenticity and your authority from a cooking standpoint.
Well, and also you can teach someone the technical skills, but you can't teach them to have a point of view. And to me, that's what I'm looking for as a viewer.
Yeah.
We're going to take some questions.
Hi, Bobby. How are you? How's everybody? Good night. My name is Denise, and Bobby, I would like to know why crispy rice?
Did you hear the question?
No.
Why crispy rice?
Oh, why not crispy rice?
Well,
But
I cook crispy rice a lot on Beat Bobby Flay. It's become like this, almost like a joke at this point. Yeah, but Sonny. But the bottom line is, crispy rice is better than not crispy rice, because, like, who doesn't want anything crispy, right? So, like, and the great thing about it is, you get both. You get the crispiness on the bottom, so you get crispy pieces, and then you get the fluffy pieces of the rice too. And it's just, you can't stop eating it. That's what happens. And so, like, when somebody challenges me to a dish that has rice in it, and I start, you know, pulling out the cast iron pan, they know, the whole place knows. The whole place. We now have a sign that comes down, a neon sign that says crispy rice. And the judges, it's almost like a joke, because the judges come out and they're like, oh my God, this rice is, I love the crispy bit. And like everybody, we're all laughing under our breaths, because it's like, it's one of my party tricks.
All right. All right. Okay, we've got one right here.
Hi, Bobby. I wanted to know if one of my favorite shows you ever did is coming back with you and your daughter, Sophie. It was so good.
You know, thank you. My daughter is very hard to book. Sophie is an accomplished journalist in Los Angeles. She works for ABC News on camera. She's just starting to anchor now, and she's a superstar. It's just hard to get her. Like, they don't want to give her the time off to shoot with me.
I get that.
I know, but I'm like, but I'm your dad. Let's go. You know? So we talk about it all the time. They'll definitely, I mean, they love Sophie there, so there'll definitely be more. But thank you for saying that.
Okay, we've got a question here.
Hi, Bobby. Just want to let you know I too missed the Burger Palace and the specifically the French fry sauce.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about bottling that or selling that to?
How much are you going to buy?
What would be a fair price?
You could tell
Cheap.
us what's in it.
Yeah, it's roasted red peppers, chipotles, mayonnaise, and a little mustard. Have at it.
Okay.
Just adjust it until you like it.
I was just wondering what sports you played in high school.
I played basketball, baseball, and I ran track and cross country, long distance. Yeah. I ran 4 marathons too. I kept running. I ran away from high school, and I just kept running.
Hi, Bobby.
Hi.
I find it very interesting that when you go and visit other countries, like for instance at Italy a lot,
Yeah.
and you pick up different recipes that you use from that area. And you'll go to a restaurant maybe and you'll taste it and you say, gee, this is good.
Well, you know what? We were talking about inspiration before, and it's like I get so much. I get inspiration. I was saying before, like I learned through my life, and so when I go to, I just took my team to Rome and Bologna. We went on a trip for a week, and they were like, is this kind of a work trip? I'm like, yeah, you have to eat and drink. You'll be fine. But like, we get so inspired by it. You know, it's just like, it's unbelievable. And then it becomes part of like who I am and what I want to cook. And even if it's not exactly the same dish that I was eating, there's a piece of it that I can feel that I can use as inspiration to do something for sure. Always.
This
Hi.
is Luisa.
Hi.
Hi. So a restaurant in New York is out of the question?
No, I didn't say that.
Oh, okay. All right.
I think about Mesa Grill 2.0 a lot.
Okay.
Because the Hamptons, that's out of the question. I don't work in the Hamptons. I'm sorry. Forget it. I mean, unless you want to run the restaurant, because you can't find anybody to work at it.
It's impossible.
No, it's impossible.
Hey, Bobby, have you been to Rolo's in Ridgewood yet?
Ridgewood, Queens?
Yeah.
No.
Very good.
I
Good
heard-
burger.
What's that?
Good burger.
You know what's really funny? My mom grew up in Ridgewood, Queens. And now it's like the hot spot now.
Every
crazy.
place our parents grew up is
It's
now. My
crazy.
dad grew up in Williamsburg.
Right, of course. Well,
It
yeah.
was a dump.
No, I know. Not anymore. Rolo's, what kind of food is it?
A mix. American, Italian.
Is it great?
It's delicious.
Oh, I'll go. Thank you.
Hey, Bobby, so you were at the Yankee game last night. Who's your favorite player?
They haven't started yet. Okay. You saw I was at the. Oh, you were watching the game on TV? Yeah, because you know what happened was I was at the game last night, and then all of a sudden my phone starts blowing up, and I'm like, what is going on? And like, all my friends are like, they just mentioned that you were at the game and showed you on TV. Apparently, a lot of people watch the World Series.
Okay.
My favorite player? Oh God. I mean, I do like Aaron Judge. He hasn't been hitting, but tonight's the night.
Okay. Okay.
Sometimes after watching a competition, I would go, let's say, to a restaurant or I'd go to a bakery, and I would ask the people who actually work there in a regular restaurant, a regular bakery, do you watch these Food Network competitions? And they do. And I said, how realistic are they really? If you were in a situation like that where you were told you had 3 hours to do something, and some of them said, in general it is, but others said, especially with baking, which I know you're cooking, you're not baking per se, it's not. That he says some of the things they're asked to do in an X number of hours, he says, I don't see how physically they can do that. How much do you run into that? How realistic really are they? And when you're given 2 hours, can you do it in 2 hours?
Right.
Or there's something behind the scenes we don't know?
Okay, well, here's the thing I will tell you. I can only speak for my shows. 100% legitimate. Not a single second difference on either side. Not one. Ever, never.
So in other words, when you're doing the throwdown or whatever
Yeah.
else,
Beat Bobby Flay.
it's like, or all of them, and Beat Bobby Flay, yes, which I watch.
Thank you.
And you're not thrown by all the yelling and the screaming and whatever that's going on and the heckling.
Yeah, that's their
that's
job.
part of the show. But,
They're
you
trying to
know,
distract me, but you know.
Yeah, it doesn't. How do you tune it out? I
I'm
mean,
a
and
tough
just
kid
look
from
at
New
the-
York. I'm not worried about that. No, but honestly, it's a great people. Oh, everybody, it's so crazy. Everybody always wants to know what's really the story. Like what you know, it's legit. Like Beat Bobby Flay has been on for 11 years. Okay, if it was not legitimate, the entire world would be talking about it because people would say it. But the judges know it, the chefs know it. Everybody gets a very, very fair, as fair as it can possibly be, and it's 100% fair. And and then some people say to me, "Do you like throw it sometimes so the other guy wins?" No. and I'll tell you for a host of reasons, but the most important reason is that it's not even about the fact that I want to win every time because I'm okay losing. I really am okay losing. If I get beat, I'm happy for that person, and it's great for the show. There is not a single chef that's ever walked into that building that wants me to throw it for them, ever. They are there to knock my head off, and they want to do it legitimately, and so they have the opportunity.
All right, you just keep raising your hands, and we are going to try to get to all of you.
Hi, Bobby. I'm Jeff. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
So my wife and I are massive Beat Bobby Flay fans. We've got like 3 episodes left of season 38, and then we'll have seen the entire collection.
You've seen more than me.
It's probably true. And we watch it as a family, and at the beginning of the show, myself, my wife, my 2 kids, we try to guess what ingredient you're going to throw out there in the beginning, and we're never right because you always pick like persimmons or kumquats or something.
Right.
And then when you face the final challenger, we always try to guess what that is. And
So do I.
we're also very rarely right. But the one thing I've always wanted to see is someone walk into that arena and challenge you to a battle of hot dogs. And it's never happened. So my question for you, Bobby, if you had to make hot dogs in 45 minutes, what would you do?
Well, I think in that that's never happened, actually. But I think what you'd have to do is you'd have to make a homemade hot dog, and then you'd have to make like delicious garnishes. But you know what happens in that case is it's all about the components. It's actually a really great question. It's all about the components. So if you're judging this and you taste it, so what are you looking at? You're looking at the flavor and the texture of the hot dog itself and how well it was put into the casing, so to speak. It's basically a sausage, right? And then so that's one thing, okay? Then you talk about like the bun. Is the bun toasted? Is it the right, what choice did you make on the bun? Some people actually decide that they're going to make their own buns and things in cases like this. They're crazy. It could because that's what happens. Like so you're talking about like timing and trying to like proof things and this and that. It never is as good as something that you can use and sort of manipulate. So the way you toast it, the way you take some of the breading out, so there's a great ratio to the hot dog to the bun, and then of course like what you put on top of it, and not to put too much on top of it. It's the right amount, so you're not like losing the flavor of the hot dog itself. It's all those kinds of things. Did you do a flavored mustard on top? Did you do some kind of sauerkraut or some kind of relish? It's like those are all the choices. You know what happens is a lot of times chefs come in and I mean they do what you guys do. They watch it at TV, they watch it at home, and they're like, I could beat this guy.
I had never thought that once.
Okay, but they're professional chefs. And then you know what happens? Then they come there and they're standing right next to me and they're like, oh my God, this is really gonna happen, I have to perform. And so what happens is they have this incredible signature dish that they have killed 5,000 times in a row. Amazing, like killed it in a good way. Like just, they have nailed it. But now they're going on TV. They're taking me on. I'm gonna change it. The one time in their life, they're going to make it better than the other 5,000 times. Right. And I watch them and I'm like, thank you. I'm going to go right down the middle, okay? Because this is not a dish that I make every day. And I'm going to make it taste delicious. And you're going to be doing all these bells and whistles that are probably not going to work. And I'm going to walk out of here with the win. That's what happens, like 60% of the time. It's unfortunate, but it happens.
To the young lady in the front row, I think the ignoring of all the yelling in the kitchen comes from people who have never waited tables or worked in a kitchen,
right?
Because it's next level.
It is.
And
I mean, restaurants are they're rowdy.
And my follow-up question is, I had one of the most delicious dishes. We're married 34 years. At Mesa Grill, it was coffee encrusted venison.
Right.
And I asked the waiter about it, and he said, "Do you like coffee?" I do. "Do you like venison?" I do. He goes, "Well, then get the coffee encrusted venison."
I love that.
And I just recently on vacation had a coffee encrusted duck breast.
Really?
But those were the only 2 times that they were specials. And they were 20 years apart.
Right.
Why isn't there more coffee in an entree? And that might not be a question that's answerable.
I love that you think I have an answer to that question. The coffee is when I use coffee in a dish like that, I usually put a lot of like very strong espresso into a spice rub, so you're getting the hints and the notes of the coffee and the aroma of it, but it's not really just coffee. Do you remember the dish that I made? Was it like a crushed blackberry and horseradish sauce on it or not?
I think that was on the side.
Okay.
Do you remember every dish you've ever made?
No way.
Okay.
I have thousands and thousands of dishes.
All right. Here we
sure it's changed over the years, but what's your favorite dish to make right now?
Right now? You know, I'm really into Italy right now. Not just because I went to Rome and Bologna a few weeks ago, but I spend as much time in Italy as I possibly can, which is not a ton, but I'm obsessed with Italy. Anybody that's been there understands why. It's a beautiful place. I love the people. I love the culture. Of course, I love the food. I love the wine. And I love their attitude of life. They can drink an espresso for 3 hours. I've never seen anything like it.
You know what I love about eating in Italy is the distinct lack of creativity. That if you're in Bologna, most of the restaurants have the same menu. When you go to Rome, they all have the same menu. They're just focused on making these things well. They're not thinking, how can I make mine different?
I could not agree with you more. I love it. I love simple food. I love food that is just tastes good. Like, don't forget the yummy factor. You know, sometimes like a lot of these very elevated restaurants that are going for 3 stars, they're literally fighting each other.
Right.
And sometimes they forget the yummy part. The cleverness is off the charts. Like, how did this person think of this? But, you know, sometimes you want to go eat a burger right after it.
Oh, and food media has something to do with it too, because we
It's all your fault.
Yeah, well, we tend to reward the creative, the innovative, the thing that we can't quite figure out.
Yeah, because you've seen carbonara 1,000 times. So now
I
you
could
want
not
something
see
new.
it enough.
Well, good for you.
I would be happy to eat it every night of my
All
life.
right, cool.
Here we go.
Hi, Bobby. I've got 2 questions. One, you tend to put a lot of heat or put heat into a lot of your dishes.
That's not a question.
Okay, but what if you don't like heat? Can we alter the recipes a little bit to lessen the heat,
Yeah,
or
take it
use
out.
a different type of?
Yeah, most of the time I just employ these chili peppers to give it like a spike of some
Right.
sort. And I mean, I like the flavors of chilies. It's just not hot. But you can certainly not put them in.
Okay, and second question is, all the food that's made on the shows, what happens? Does it all get eaten? Does it
Oh, yeah.
get given away? Yeah.
We have a huge team and staff of people. Those guys eat like crazy. Oh, yeah. Nothing goes to waste.
Hi, Bobby. So we're going to Florence next week. Recommend a restaurant?
You know, Florence is not my go-to. I haven't been to Florence for a very long time, so I'm actually the wrong person to ask. Like, if you want Rome, if you want Bologna, if you want the Amalfi Coast, I'm your guy.
Rome.
What?
Rome.
You want Rome?
Yeah.
Okay, Felice as a trattoria. Go to Roscioli. You writing this down?
Have you been to the new Roscioli in New York?
I have not. Have you?
No, I'm scared too.
Right.
I mean,
I haven't been, but the question is, does it translate?
It can't.
I know. Well, maybe it can.
Yeah,
I
but
don't
you know, what do you have to do to those people to get them to the level that someone walking off the street in Rome is already at?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, and I think you make a fantastic point, which is like, sometimes sense of place is 90% of the deliciousness. I mean, because sometimes it just doesn't translate, you know, by moving it.
And also, it's like here, it's going to be like, oh, this is our special, you know, we're in Rome. They're just like giving you the food. They're not like making
I
the
learned
whole
a dish
hoo-ha.
there. I learned a dish there. Actually, I did on Ina Garten's show just last month that just aired. It's pasta, butter, and anchovies. Nothing else. Maybe some chives or something. But like, they make that dish at Roscioli.
Right.
And I came back when Gato was open, and I made my own noodles for it, and I made this like chive pesto, but I just made this anchovy butter and just like let the anchovy butter melt into the noodles. And I mean, you have to like anchovies. Here's the thing: everybody actually likes anchovies.
They just
Some people
don't know
think
it.
Exactly. They are the bacon of the sea. Okay, utilize them. They are so great.
Hi, Bobby.
Hi.
You met my husband last night at the Yankee game. So
I did?
Yeah, up in the suite.
Yeah.
Joe Bello.
I wasn't in the suite. Oh.
Yes.
Yes. Hi.
How are you?
No, you said going to say hi. I love your husband.
Yeah.
He's the best.
He said, "Don't forget to say hi." So
No, I'm glad.
I'm saying hi.
I'm glad.
My question is: there something you don't like to make or don't like to eat? You shy away from?
Not really. I mean, I don't love offal very much. I mean, I'm not into like kidneys and stuff like that. You like it? I like sweetbreads, but like I don't know. I could
Actually,
do
there was
that.
a place in Rome we went to, Piatto Romano, that specializes in guts.
There's a place called Santo Palato.
Yeah.
It's a female chef named Stephanie who is a fantastic chef, but she uses a lot of the innards and stuff like that. You love it?
I do. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well.
Hi. I wanted to touch on something you guys said about, because I grew up in an Italian family, and I had an aunt say to me once, oh, a little bit of garlic and oil, you can make anything. And that said, I always have garlic, oil, and like a good vinegar on my countertop. Can make anything. What would you say when you're just chilling out on the weekends, no plans, even in a vacation home that you're renting for the week? What's your main
I love that you like painting the
thing?
picture.
Well, that's like what we do. It's the weekend. You're hanging out.
No, exactly.
You're with your family. What's the main thing you have to have? I have to have garlic. Like, what do you have to have in your
What
refrigerator?
ingredient?
Yeah, like you're cooking. You don't know what you're making, but what's the one staple you know is going to be in your kitchen no matter what?
Tequila. Definitely tequila. I don't know, an avocado.
Yeah.
I mean, I use avocados a lot. I mean, I love avocados. Do you put garlic in the guacamole, in your guacamole?
No.
Oh.
My in-laws are Jewish. I literally put garlic powder in the matzo balls. Try it.
That's a good idea.
All right.
Just a little.
No, listen, I'm all for garlic. I think it's great.
Don't mind it better.
Cool.
Okay, we're over here.
Hello, Bobby.
Hi.
We're all coming up on Thanksgiving, and we're either going to host or we're going to visit.
Okay.
What does a Bobby Flay, outside of a turkey, bring to Thanksgiving?
What do I bring?
Bring or make?
Like as a dish?
As a dish, what's special? What's something everybody expects you to come through the door?
Yeah, my go-to side dish has been the same thing for a while now, which is I make these very, very luscious mashed potatoes, okay, which have just a couple of ingredients in it. It's butter and creme fraiche, and like a splash of scalded milk. That's basically it, and lots of salt and pepper. But I make, and then I take the mashed potatoes that are finished, and I put them in a bowl, and I make like a well out of it. And then on the side of the stove, you're like, what's going to happen?
This is fantastic.
On the side of the stove, I make a green chili queso sauce. And I put the queso sauce in the well of the mashed potatoes. It's Thanksgiving, don't count the calories. And then people take some of the queso sauce with the mashed potatoes, and literally that's basically what they eat the entire night.
Wow.
I theme my Thanksgivings differently every year, and no matter what the theme is, it could be Italian, I still have to make that dish.
That is something. Do you have that? Is that in any book?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's out there.
Google it, man.
What time should we arrive?
Okay, so let me just explain the rules, though. Okay, I have a lot of people in my house for Thanksgiving. Half the people I don't even know who they are. They just come in, and the rules are that if you're a guest in my house, you are given an assignment to bring something, and the assignment is one of the following things: a dessert. But I won't just say just bring a dessert. I'll give you a category: pumpkin, apple, fruit, chocolate, because otherwise you wind up with 16 pumpkin pies, right? And then, or you either get dessert or you get wine, red or white. And then we have it covered. I don't have to make dessert. You guys bring the liquor. It's all balanced out, and we pop a lot of corks. I start with cranberry martinis too.
Bobby.
Yes.
You could eat, as you've just proven, whatever you want, pretty much whenever you want. So what's your favorite guilty eating pleasure? What do you eat at 11 o'clock at night?
Pizza or burgers. I'm a New Yorker. It's like, I love burgers. I have a business about burgers because of it. And I live in New York City, the greatest place for pizza in the world. So, that's what I do.
Hey, Bobby.
Hi.
Question. What is your favorite chilies to work with?
My favorite chilies?
to work with?
I like Chipotle chilies. I like Calabrian chilies, which are an Italian chili from the south of Italy, of course. I like South American chilies lately too. Ají amarillo, which is this yellow chili that I just absolutely love.
chilies.
Yeah, I make a like a sauce with mayonnaise and that yellow chili for like a fried chicken sandwich. So good. Ugh, love
What
it.
do you think about like the ghost peppers and
No.
like this crazy,
No.
like how hot can you go?
No.
Okay. No.
I use chili peppers for accent, not for injury.
Okay.
I mean, to me, that's the most important thing, is that you understand that you're actually using something that has flavor, not just heat.
Right.
And a ghost pepper it's dangerous.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. I mean, I'm
But
not
what's
interested.
that show where they're eating the
Hot
wings?
ones. I did it.
How'd you do?
It was fine.
Yeah.
I mean, and I kept talking about the flavors of the hot sauces, and the host was like, "We don't care about that. We just want to get you drunk on Scoville units." You know, it's just like, yeah.
What's your record on Beat Bobby Flay? And
Between 65 and 70% wins.
And then how do your contestants get chosen?
The production company finds them. I mean, it's a long process. Why? You trying to throw your hat in the ring? What's your best dish? No? Is that your husband? Yeah, you're not coming on. Hi.
Hi, Bobby.
Hi.
On Beat Bobby Flay, everything always comes down to the last second. So is the show too long? Is it not long enough? Is there anybody?
You do it.
No. Is there anybody that finishes 10 minutes early and is just hanging out?
I have.
Well, that's editing, though,
'Cause
isn't it? They
I-
always make it look like they're finishing at the last second.
It always seems like everybody finishes at the last second.
That's because, let me tell you what happens, and it happens to me all the time too. If you think that you're cruising along, you start to cruise along, and all of a sudden the time melts away. And we have to make 6 dishes of each one, okay? It's a lot of handiwork, and it's a lot of like running to go get the plates, and then you have like 14 garnishes, you can't find them on your station. My stations are a mess. I am like the sloppiest cook on Beat Bobby Flay because I use every single piece of ingredient of equipment because I'm trying to get it done. I'm not worrying about doing the dishes afterwards, you know? And so sometimes I'll have like prepped like 3 different garnishes like for the end, and I'm like, where is it? You know, and I can't find it. I'm lifting up like different, knives and napkins, and I was like, so sometimes a lot of times it comes right down to the final couple of seconds, but for the most part, it is what it is.
Hi, Bobby. I'm so excited to be here. You have no idea. I'm dying right now. Just given your background with education or the fact that you weren't happy in that situation, I'm a New York City school teacher, and announcing to my kids today that I was coming to see this show. I have 6 kids who want to be chefs. Did you ever think about doing a show geared towards children, or maybe opening some sort of school in the city for children? You talk about vocational school, and that's what we really need.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that we're starting to see is a lot more culinary education in high schools, like public schools and stuff like that. And I've worked with them in the past. So yeah, I mean, yes, I absolutely. I think it's a great idea. And listen, when I was a kid, it wasn't on the list of things to do for a living, right? It was like, attorney, doctor, accountant, whatever, like all the classic things. And now chef is actually on the list, which is great.
I think we've got only about time for about 2 questions. We have a gentleman down here.
I was told one of the first restaurants you worked at was a place called Joe Allen's.
Correct.
And it was with a chef by the name of Slim?
No.
No? Okay.
Not that I know of.
Did you learn anything from Joe Allen's, just working hard?
Well, Joe Allen gave me my tuition to go to culinary school. It was a very important part of my life. Yeah. Actually, the Today Show did a taped piece today. Actually, you can find it. Carson Daly interviewed me. We were standing right in front of Joe Allen's. I was telling the story about it. It's a cool story.
Right. I think this next one is going to be our last question, I'm afraid. Make it a good one.
Oh, no pressure. So
A margarita from Mesa Grill, the French onion soup from Bar American, and the squid ink pasta from Gatto is my death row meal. What
Really?
would be your death row meal?
I guess that. No, it would be a cheeseburger, an ice cream sundae, and 2 margaritas.
Okay, that is an excellent place to end.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.